Hello everyone, welcome to yet another episode of our Polity Quick Revision series. So in this video, we'll continue our talk about the Panchayati Raj institutions. So here we'll specifically look at what are the kind of provisions of the 73rd Constitutional Amendment Act. What are the compulsory provisions? What are the voluntary provisions? Right? So without any further delay, let's get started. We talked about certain provisions that are meant to be compulsory, as in every state should adopt it, and the other ones that are supposed to be voluntary. Now let's take a look at the provisions that are compulsory. Okay, organization of a Gram Sabha in a village or a group of villages, okay, depending upon the size, population, all of that. Okay, now that is mandatory. Okay, establishment of panchayats at the village, intermediate and district levels is mandatory, except for some exceptions that we already talked about. Direct elections to all the seats in panchayats at the village. Okay, direct elections. So what kind of elections? Direct elections. Okay, and indirect elections to chairpersons. Okay, and is it for which levels? Intermediate and district levels. What about for a chairperson of at panchayat levels or at the village levels?
State assembly will determine.
Perfect. That is going to be state assembly. Super. Chennagide. State assembly. State legislature. Okay, assembly, not assembly, it is legislature. Why did I say legislature and not assembly? Because in some states you have the upper house as well, right? So if you say state legislature, it can be your assembly alone, or it can be the other as well. So it is a better term to be used. Okay, voting rights of the chairperson and other members of the panchayat elected directly or indirectly. Okay, so voting rights of the chairperson and other members of a panchayat. Okay, and then 21 years to be the minimum age for contesting in elections. Okay, for contesting. Reservation of seats for whom all? SCs and STs. Reservation of 1/3 of the seats, okay, for women. Okay, a tenure of 5 years. Okay, just focus on this point number 9. There was a question that was once asked. Fixing tenure of 5 years for panchayat at all levels and holding fresh elections within 6 months in event of like a supersession of any sort of panchayat. Okay, so within 6 months of your panchayat ending, you've got to have the new body up and running. Okay, an establishment of something called a state election commission. Today, if possible, we'll also cover election commission. Okay, for conducting elections to the panchayats. Okay, so we have central election commission, and then you have state election commission. State election commission have been brought in much later because of the introduction of Panchayati Raj. Okay, Panchayati Raj. Okay, because of the introduction of Panchayati Raj. So state election commission deals with this local election. State election commission does not. So if there is a question about state election commission deals with election to state legislature. True, false. It is false. Okay, because it sounds like state and state. Okay, these are sort of silly mistakes that we can possibly make, but however, it is false. It is false because this was introduced later and only for the purpose of this local level kind of elections. Okay. And similarly, you have State Finance Commission. So State Finance Commission deals with, making recommendations with regard to, we'll take a look at this. Okay, Finance Commission. So you have a Finance Commission at the center, you have Finance Commission at the state level. Finance Commission at the state, at the center, is going to tell us how exactly, like according to what principles shall we sort of divide the net proceeds of taxes for the whole country, okay, between the center and the states. How much should the center keep and how much should the states keep? Okay, because we know, right, the states have a lot of duties as well, right? We have the state list, we have the concurrent list, we have the central list. Based on that, and the need of the hour, every 5 years, this Finance Commission will sort of sit together and come out with some principles based on which this sort of a net proceeds of taxes for the country can be shared between the center and the states. State Finance Commission, on the other hand, is going to come out with principles that allow for division of this net proceed of taxes to be shared, as in the funds of the state should be shared between the the state legislature and the state level and also at the panchayat level. So we cannot just form a panchayat without giving them any sort of funds, right? So how much of that should go? What are the principles that should sort of govern that, right? So that is that. Now let's take a look at voluntary provisions. Now be very clear. Voluntary provisions are voluntary. Okay, now the state can take it, the state may not want to do it, but the compulsory provisions have to be implemented. Now let's take a look at this. Endowing, number one, okay, endowing the Gram Sabha with powers and functions at the village level. So give them a lot of these powers and functions. Determining the manner of election of the chairperson of the village panchayat. I think Yashwari already mentioned that. Giving representation to the chairperson of the village panchayats at the intermediate levels, or in the case of state, not having intermediate panchayats, in the district panchayats, meaning from your village panchayat, get some representatives from your village panchayat by giving them some sort of a reservation to these chairpersons in these village panchayats as a representative in the higher level, the second tier or the first tier, okay, sort of groups. Number 4, giving representation to chairpersons of the intermediate panchayats in the district panchayats. Again, from district to, intermediate, mandal to your district. Okay, giving representation to members of parliament, okay, and the state legislature in the panchayats at different levels. So it does not matter whether you're in the parliament or you're in the state legislature, you come and you sort of, represent or sort of participate here as well, okay, so that it gets a little more power and some importance and all of that, right? It cannot be that the MPs are only sitting in posh places in Delhi, okay, things of that nature. Providing reservation of seats for both members and chairpersons for backward classes in panchayats at any level. So meaning you can even give reservation to backward classes. Do we have OBC reservation in Lok Sabha and Assembly? OBC reservation idea?
No, sir.
No, sir.
OBC reservation idea at the panchayat levels?
It is left to the will of the state. If they want, they can.
Yeah. So perfect. Now, if you can tell me, can you tell me any states that have it? See, generally, if you read the first half of the newspaper, in the Hindu newspaper, you will see some local news. So in the local news, you will see that, okay, there is a news about OBC communities may lose political reservation in local bodies in Maharashtra. Okay, you will see some article like this. Okay, if primarily if you're following the news from different states. Similarly, OBC seats reduced by half in Gram Panchayats this time, Karnataka, right? So things like this you will see. So that means reservation in Gram Panchayats and the local levels, you will also see OBCs. Just be aware kahan pe kya ho raha hai. And that is going to be useful because you can always sort of make an impression in your mains as well. Okay, will they ever ask you which are the states in which? Okay, highly unlikely. Okay, but it's something that you can add as a example. Okay, even when it comes to your mains. Granting powers and authority to the panchayat to enable them to function as institutions of self-government, okay, making them autonomous sort of bodies. Devolution of powers and responsibilities upon panchayats to whichever sort of the 29 functions listed in the 11th schedule that we've already seen when we talked about the third chapter, I guess, salient features. Granting financial powers, assigning panchayats taxes, grants in aid, okay, providing constitution of funds for crediting all monies of the panchayat, a whole lot of things that you can do. But primarily what I want you to do is go through this, but memorize this. If I give you one feature from this, okay, you should still be able to tell me, no, that is not a mandatory provision. Okay, if you can say that, then that means you're good at this.